"You know what's odd, don't you?" she said, her voice cutting through the thick silence that had settled over the room like a shroud. "Everything about this house is a lie." John looked up from his whiskey, the amber liquid shimmering in the low light of the flickering candle. He had known Marianne for 6 years, and she had never been one to indulge in the dramatic, at least not without good reason. They were in their new home, a sprawling Victorian mansion they had bought for a steal at an auction, surrounded by the unpacked remnants of their life. "Care to elaborate?" he asked. His curiosity piqued despite the weariness etched into his features. Marian took a deep breath, her eyes scanning the walls as if searching for invisible secrets. "It's all in the details. The layout is wrong. The floorboards creak in places they shouldn't. And I swear the paintings change when you're not looking." John leaned back into his chair, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "You've been watching too many horror movies. Perhaps," she conceded with a shrug, "but I can't shake the feeling." Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden, sharp knock on the door, echoing through the empty halls like a gunshot in a library. John's smile faded, and he set his glass aside, rising to his feet with a sense of unease. The knocking grew more insistent, the rhythm erratic, almost frantic. Marianne's eyes grew wide with fear. Who could that be? "Play button." John walked to the door, his hand hovering over the doorknob. "Probably just the neighbor, welcoming us to the neighborhood." He pulled the door open to reveal a figure shrouded in a heavy, hooded cloak, obscured by the shadows of the moonless night. The figure didn't speak, didn't move, just stared at them with a gaze that seemed to bore into their very souls. John's heart hammered in his chest as he stepped back, his hand reaching for the light switch. The moment the light flipped on, the figure was gone, vanished into the night, leaving nothing but the echo of their own racing hearts. From that night on, the couple began to notice the peculiarities that seemed to plague their new home. Doors that locked themselves, footsteps where no one should be, and whispers in the walls that grew louder with each passing day. Marianne's fear grew into obsession, her every waking moment consumed by the unexplained happenings. John, ever the skeptic, tried to find rational explanations, but even he couldn't ignore the chilling sense of unease that clung to the very fabric of their lives. Their friends laughed it off, suggesting it was nothing more than an overactive imagination and the stress of the move. Yet, as the weeks turned into months, the occurrences grew more intense, more malevolent. Marian swore she saw figures in the corners of her eyes, always disappearing when she turned to look. John would wake to find cold spots in the room, as if someone had just been standing over him, watching him sleep. One evening, while searching through the attic for any clues to the house's past, they stumbled upon a dusty, leather-bound book hidden in a wall compartment. It was filled with the meticulous records of the home's previous owners, a lineage that stretched back over a century. The final entry was a desperate plea for help, the ink smudged as if the writer had been crying. "The house is alive," it read, "and it wants us gone. Play button." The words sent a shiver down John's spine. He turned to Marianne, her eyes wide with terror. "We have to leave," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Before it's too late." John nodded, his mind racing. They had to uncover the truth, to find out what dark secrets this house held. Little did they know that their quest for answers would lead them down a path of suspense and horror that would test the very limits of their sanity. Play button. The house had a will of its own, and it had no intention of letting them go without a fight. The walls whispered secrets of past tragedies. The floors groaned with the weight of untold suffering, and every room seemed to hold a new terror waiting to be uncovered. The whispers grew louder, the shadows longer, and the line between reality and nightmare began to blur. As they dug deeper, they uncovered a history of death and despair, of families torn apart and lost souls trapped within the very fabric of the building. A curse, perhaps, or something more sinister, something that had been festering for generations. Play button. Their lives became a thrilling dance of terror, each step bringing them closer to the heart of the mystery. Yet every revelation only led to more questions. Who was the woman in the painting that seemed to follow them with her gaze? What was the significance of the hidden passageways that snaked through the house like a maze? And what was the dark force that lurked in the basement, growing stronger with each passing night? They sought help from experts, from ghost hunters to historians, but no one could explain the phenomena they were experiencing. The house grew bolder in its haunting, the unseen presence toying with them, playing on their fears and driving them to the brink of madness. Play button. In the end, it was Marianne who made the ultimate sacrifice. Driven by love and determination, she faced the malevolent spirit head-on, her voice the only weapon she had left. She called out the name of the lost soul, the one that had been trapped for so long, and offered it release. The house trembled with rage, the walls seeming to close in around them as the spirit fought back. But Marianne's voice grew stronger, her love a beacon in the darkness. The air grew thick with the scent of burning wood and decay, and the spirit's power began to wane. John watched in awe as Marianne's eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, her voice resonating through the house like a battle cry. And then, as suddenly as it had started, the room went still. Play button. The spirit was gone, the house quiet once more. The couple looked at each other, their hearts racing, their souls forever changed by the events that had unfolded. They knew that they had survived the nightmare, that the house had released its grip on their lives. But the whispers remained, a faint echo of what had been. And as they lay in bed that night, the candlelight casting shadows across the ceiling, John couldn't help but wonder if the house had truly given up its secrets, or if it had only just begun to reveal them. For every answer they had found, there was a new question waiting in the dark, a new shadow lurking in the corners of their minds. The house had given them a story to tell, one that would chill the spines of all who heard it. But it had also given them a warning, a stark reminder that some things are better left unsaid, some secrets better left undisturbed. As they drifted off to sleep, Marian reached for John's hand, her grip tight. "Thank you," she murmured. John squeezed her hand in return, his voice a hoarse whisper. "For what?" Marianne's eyes remained closed, but a small smile played on her lips. "For believing me when no one else would." And in that moment, as the house held its breath, they realized that the true horror wasn't the ghosts of the past, but the darkness that lived in the hearts of men. The kind of darkness that built such a place, the kind that could never truly be banished by light or love. But for now, the whispers had ceased, and the house slept, lulled into a false sense of peace by the couple's victory. They had faced the unknown and lived to tell the tale. But as the night grew old and the candle burned low, the question remained. What would tomorrow bring, in the quiet moments when the house was once again left to its own devices? For in a place where walls had eyes and floors had ears, the whispers were never truly gone. They were merely waiting, biding their time.